I'm Angela.
And I'm Paige.
Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. We'll explore the intricate details of the corrupt, the cruel, and the calculating.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast.
Jordan Monaghan is a highly manipulative murderer whose actions resulted in the premeditated death of two of his own children, Logan and Ruby Monaghan, the attempted murder of his third child, and the murder of his girlfriend, Evie Adams.
Jordan Monaghan was born in Blackburn, England on July 16, 1991. Jordan did not know his biological father, but his mother remarried, and he grew up with his mother, stepfather, and two siblings. Jordan met Laura Gray in primary school around 2003. Jordan's sister was best friends with Laura, introducing Jordan and Laura when they were both kids. Born in November 1992, Laura is a year younger than Jordan.
Jordan skipped school frequently and had a bad boy vibe going for him. By the time he was 11, Jordan was using cocaine, drinking, and stealing cars. At the same time, Laura and Jordan began dating. The very first glimpse we have into Jordan's manipulative personality with Laura is from a breakup between them when Laura was 13 and Jordan was 14 years old.
I mean, using cocaine when you're 11,
That's rough.
Yeah, I would say so. Laura broke it off, and Jordan attempted to commit suicide by overdosing on coke. He ended up in the hospital, then days later showed up at Laura's house apologizing until she took him back. In November 2008, when Laura was 16 years old, Jordan proposed to her. We're not sure why, but they never got married.
The following year, Laura and Jordan moved in together. Laura said,
"We settled down and were really happy. Jordan was well thought of by family and friends. There were no warning signs at all."
In 2010, Laura received a notice from the landlord saying the rent had not been paid. They had a joint bank account which Jordan monitored and was in charge of. Jordan also checked all of Laura's social media accounts as well.
Laura couldn't understand where their money was going because Jordan was a construction site manager making good money and Laura worked at a nursing home.
That's quite the job that Jordan had at 18 years old. Like, he was already a manager?
Yeah. He must have been a really good construction worker.
Or a con man.
Ooh, corrupted.
I feel like there's some more manipulation going on here. Like, he's 18 years old. He's got a record for stealing cars. And we know of some drug abuse. So you don't even know what other kind of record he has out there that's maybe hidden because he was underage.
Well, it turns out that Jordan wasn't only financially irresponsible, he was also addicted to slot machines and gambling.
And he's addicted to fruit machines, whatever a fruit machine is. On November 17th, 2011, Laura and Jordan had a son together, Logan Patrick Monaghan. Everything seemed normal with the young parents and their first baby. Logan and Laura were healthy, and Laura was delighted to be a mother. She quit her job and became a stay-at-home mom. Within 2 weeks of Logan's birth, Jordan was already begging Laura to get pregnant again. Laura told Jordan that she wasn't ready, but by the time Logan was 5 months old, she was pregnant. Suspiciously, Jordan made a joke to Laura about using a needle to poke holes in the condom.
What a douche.
I wondered if that would be illegal. Isn't that some kind of entrapment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because technically she didn't give consent that she wanted another child, right?
She's telling him the opposite. I don't want to be pregnant right now. I don't want a second baby.
Yeah, I would think that would be illegal.
I know. She has no proof, though. Like, it could be completely innocent.
Does she have that condom from that time?
Ick.
It was at this point, pregnant with a daughter and an infant son, that Laura received a second notice from the landlord that they were behind in the rent. Laura decided it was enough and broke up with Jordan. The very next day, on September 23rd, 2012, Logan and Jordan were alone while Laura went out shopping. Jordan called 999 to report an emergency because 10-month-old Logan was found unresponsive with paracetamol pills lying around him.
Paracetamol is the same medication as Tylenol. So in the United States, we would call this acetaminophen. The story that Jordan is spinning here is that Logan was unconscious from Tylenol poisoning, which is not common.
Thinking that, Logan took it himself?
That he somehow got into a large quantity of Tylenol, basically.
Oh, because he was how old at this point? Not very old.
He's 10 months old, so this would be like the pills were lying around or the cap was off of the paracetamol and he swallowed them.
Jordan said that Logan woke up and seemed a little drowsy. Just to be on the safe side, Logan was taken to the hospital. They found Logan in good health, with no signs of paracetamol in his system, and released him. Logan's health crisis brought them back together, and Laura agreed to stay with Jordan.
Early in December, Laura, Logan, and Jordan moved into a new, bigger apartment. Just days later, on December 8th, 2012, Ruby Julie Monaghan was born. There were no complications, and by all accounts, Ruby was a healthy baby at birth. On December 15th, 1-week-old Ruby was taken to the emergency room for an infection. She was treated and released on the same day. Then 5 days later, Ruby was at her pediatrician for an infected fingernail. So you have parents doing what they should here. Ruby's not feeling well or she's sick. They're taking it seriously. They're taking her to a doctor over just normal childhood illnesses. It seems like everything's normal at this point.
Just after Christmas, on December 29th, Laura was upstairs folding clothes while Jordan began screaming that Ruby wasn't breathing. Laura ran downstairs to find Ruby in Jordan's arms. She was pale with blue lips and struggling to breathe. They rushed to the hospital where Ruby would be admitted and monitored for 3 days. Hospital staff initially thought Ruby was showing viral symptoms of bronchitis. She was wheezing, her oxygen was low, and her nose was plugged up. Ruby's health improved, and she was released from the hospital on December 31st.
Laura and Jordan stayed up to watch a movie and celebrate the new year. Jordan told Laura he would take the middle of the night turn feeding Ruby. Around 2 a.m., Laura was woken up by Jordan again screaming that Ruby wasn't breathing. Ruby was non-responsive, lying in her Moses basket. A Moses basket is like a woven bassinet with handles on both sides that you could carry around easily. I thought that was a really clever idea, especially when you have a little baby. It's just like a little bassinet that you just pick up and carry around with you.
Did they call it a Moses basket? Because what is that Bible story where they put a baby in a basket?
That's Moses.
That is Moses?
Yeah, his sister Miriam puts him in the river.
Yeah.
And waits for the king's daughter, the princess.
Yeah.
To find Moses. Yeah. That's what I thought too when it was called a Moses basket. I was like, I wonder if this is supposed to be based off of the Bible story.
I bet you it is.
I bet it is too. I don't know why we don't have these in the US.
We need them.
Jordan provided CPR and Laura called for an ambulance. Ruby and Laura were rushed to the hospital as Ruby had gone into cardiac respiratory arrest. 24-day-old Ruby would be declared dead at 2:45 a.m. on January 1st, 2013. The doctors found no signs of physical injuries or a reason for her death just hours after her release from the hospital. Later, Laura would remember that the blanket was on Ruby in her Moses basket when she found her, which didn't make sense. Wouldn't the blanket have been moved when Jordan tried to save Ruby's life? Laura also said that Jordan was so calm, and he just stood over Ruby as she panicked and tried to save their daughter.
So when Laura had come into the room, Ruby had the blanket covering her completely, and she just took it off?
I don't think that the blanket was over Ruby's face or anything like that. I think she just had the blanket draped over her like you would, with the baby in the bassinet.
Okay. And her thoughts were, why was the blanket on her?
Right.
When Jordan would have been performing CPR.
You're panicking. The first thing you're going to do is probably rip the blanket off of her. And I would also assume you're going to pull Ruby out of the bassinet, right? You're going to have her in your arms. And the interesting thing is you've got two different responses from Jordan here. He's panicking and he's screaming, oh my gosh, she's not breathing. But then when Laura's down there with him, she says he's so super calm and just watching.
Yeah, not suspicious at all.
Sadly, at this point, she's not suspicious. We are, because we know how the story ends.
Ruby's death would be determined from acute bronchial pneumonia. Jordan stayed home with Logan while Laura rode in the ambulance with Ruby to the emergency room. Ruby had passed away before Jordan arrived at the hospital, but when Laura told him, Jordan said, "I know."
How would Jordan have known unless he knew?
Exactly. Talk about some sketchy shit. With Ruby's death, Laura and Jordan had reconciled and were closer than ever. Jordan planned the funeral and carried on. Laura assumed he was being strong for her and Logan.
On July 26, 2013, Laura broke it off with Jordan again. She was tired of his lies and his gambling. Jordan said that he wanted to spend a final day with Logan before moving out. So on July 27th, Laura went out shopping. It wasn't long before Jordan called Laura and begged her to hurry home because Logan had gone all floppy. Laura rushed home and Logan was taken to the hospital. Logan had revived and the doctor suspected his symptoms may have been sunstroke or an upper respiratory infection. Logan was released from the hospital. Again, Laura and Jordan reconciled, deciding to focus on Logan's health.
On August 16th, Laura discovered that Jordan had 2,000 pounds of credit card debt due to gambling. When confronted, Jordan admitted that he hadn't been paying the rent and was spending their money on gambling. Laura also caught Jordan pulling money from a second bank account that she knew nothing about. This turned into a fight, and Laura broke up with Jordan, asking him to move out.
The very next day around 2 p.m., Jordan and Logan took a taxi from the Chapel Street apartment to a shopping plaza outside of Debenham's department store. In the taxi, 21-month-old Logan was bubbly and happy. From the shopping plaza, they then visited Mill Hill Park. Then Jordan pushed Logan in his stroller to a water park called Waves. Jordan paid the entry fee and headed towards the bathroom or changing rooms. By 2:30 p.m., Jordan and Logan exited the water park. The rain cover was down on the stroller, and Logan was covered with a blanket.
Kaylee, a staff worker at Waves, thought it was strange that Jordan didn't ask for a refund for his quick trip to the water park, and also that the stroller cover was pulled down on such a warm day.
Because remember, he got there at 2 o'clock, and now he's leaving at 2:30 after he paid entry for a water park.
Yeah, too quick of a time.
They didn't even get in the water.
Instead of taking a taxi back, Jordan decided to walk. He ran into a family friend as they walked up Wellington Road. The friend assumed Logan was sleeping in the stroller. They chatted about Jordan's attempt to take Logan swimming, but Jordan said he had realized he forgot their swim trunks, so Jordan was taking Logan back home instead.
When Jordan arrived at the apartment, Laura was napping. She let Jordan and Logan into the apartment, and Jordan told her that Logan had fallen asleep on their travels. They decided to let Logan nap, and Jordan would stay for tea. The stroller was pushed into the dining room facing a wall with Logan inside.
Question. At this point, was Jordan and Laura were broken up, so he was moved out? Or he just was temporarily not there?
I think that he has moved out, or he was planning on staying somewhere else because it was agreed upon that he would stay for tea, which was like their dinner. So he was going to run out and get pizza. They're going to have dinner together, and then he's going to leave, is how the initial story is supposed to be.
Okay.
It's very confusing. And the next part is very confusing too, because he comes and goes so many times. So Jordan left to see if the pizza shop was open. And if so, he planned on bringing a pizza back for them to share. A short time later, Jordan returned with paper for Logan to paint on, but he didn't have paint or pizza. Before leaving to buy paint and pizza, Jordan asked Laura if she had checked on Logan. Laura said she hadn't. She was letting him nap, and it wasn't unusual for Logan to take a 2 to 3 hour nap, so she wasn't worried.
Jordan said he was worried about Logan being cranky and asked Laura to wake Logan when he went out for paint and pizza. Jordan then left the house for the second time for that paint and pizza. He was back a few minutes later with paint. Jordan asked Laura why she hadn't woken Logan up yet, then waited around for a few minutes for her to wake him, But she still didn't, so Jordan asked her again to wake Logan before heading out finally for that pizza.
It was then that Laura found Logan dead in the stroller. In an interview with the Daily Mail, Laura said that she knew as soon as she lifted the stroller cover that Logan was gone. The hood of Logan's jacket was up and half covering his face. Logan was pale and not breathing. Laura called for an ambulance, telling the dispatcher,
"Please, my baby died. Please hurry up. My baby has died. I've just found him in the pram. He's dead."
which is just so horrible.
Yeah.
Jordan tried CPR again, but it was too late. Logan would be declared dead at 6 p.m. on August 17, 2013. He was just 21 months old.
Again, Laura remembered strange details. Jordan hated swimming and had never taken Logan to swim before. Then he insisted that Laura be the one to find Logan, not so smoothly asking her again and again to check on Logan as he went for random things outside of the house. Jordan played the devastated father, even speaking with local news teams about Logan and Ruby's tragic deaths. Laura didn't suspect a thing, but vowed to have no more children because she thought there had to be genetic issues at fault for her children's deaths.
Logan's cause of death was initially unclear. There were no signs of abuse, but his brain was swollen. One of several possible explanations was that there had been an imposed airway obstruction by a third party. In other words, that he could have been smothered. Understandably, Laura had a breakdown and spent some time in a psychiatric hospital. Jordan was again very supportive of Laura, even showing up every day to visit her. They decided to try again to make the relationship work.
How many times are we going to go back and forth here? They're on and off constantly. But that's his manipulation, I get it.
Yep.
Laura and Jordan moved out of their Chapel Street apartment and into a new apartment on Hamilton Street. In August 2013, Jordan was investigated and interrogated in regards to Logan and Ruby's deaths for 8 hours before being released. Laura and Jordan went through genetic testing to determine if it was a hereditary condition that had caused the baby's deaths. The testing proved that genetics were not at fault.
In May 2016, Laura and Jordan had a third child together. This child's identity has been protected, and we only know that they had a daughter. Like Ruby and Logan, this daughter would have several life-threatening episodes. On September 18, 2016, Laura caught Jordan gambling again. It was the day of their daughter's christening. It turned into a huge argument, and Laura broke it off with Jordan again, but she did still allow him to see their baby.
Less than 10 days later, on September 27th, Jordan was downstairs alone with their daughter when he yelled that the baby wasn't breathing. When Laura ran downstairs, she saw the baby in Jordan's arms. The baby was floppy and her eyes were closed. Jordan provided CPR and Laura called 999. By the time paramedics arrived, the baby appeared to be recovered. She was taken to the hospital and kept for 2 days under observation. Jordan told responders that the baby had been coughing and making choking sounds, which had alerted him to her breathing issues.
On October 2nd, Jordan was alone with their daughter again. This time, he called Laura to say she needed to come home quickly because the baby was not breathing again. The baby was lethargic and paramedics were called. This time, the baby was rushed to the hospital and kept for 9 days. The incident proved to be the final straw for Laura, and she permanently broke up with Jordan. For the baby's safety, she was removed from Laura and Jordan's custody temporarily.
In December 2017, a family judge, Judge Booth, took permanent custody of the toddler from Laura. The judge believed that Jordan had tried to suffocate her multiple times, and charges would be filed for an attempted murder incident when this baby was 4 months old. Judge Booth said,
"It is not the vulnerability of the toddler's mother in isolation that requires assessment. It is her vulnerability in the context of the risk posed by the toddler's father and the threat that he poses to the toddler."
This is alleged information. Laura and Jordan are not mentioned directly. It always says the toddler's mother or the toddler's father, but it's been long connected to Jordan, and the articles list a breakdown of Logan and Ruby's deaths. So we think it is safe to assume this was a third child of Laura and Jordan.
In January 2018, an official investigation was opened. Logan and Ruby's cause of death was again reviewed. Previously, Ruby's was listed as bronchiolitis, and Logan's is unascertained. However, further information was obtained about the attempted murder of their third child, and the police opened Operation Mayford to investigate the attacks. Operation Mayford called in 12 of the UK's top experts in cardiology, genetics, neurology, and pediatrics. Ruby's death was reclassified, this time to unascertained. This meant both Ruby and Logan had died from unexplained circumstances that could be suspicious. They did find that Jordan was the only one around at the time of the children's death. In each child's case, there was no natural explanation for the collapse. All 3 children were exhibiting signs of smothering of the nose and mouth to obstruct the airway. Laura also assisted in the investigation, helping to nail down a timeline of breakups, then attempted murder or murder to manipulate Laura into staying with Jordan.
Paramedics also reported with Ruby's death that rigor mortis had started to set in by the time they arrived, but Jordan said he had called for Laura right away. Detective Chief Inspector Pauline Stables was in charge of Operation Mayford. She speculates,
I believe he has probably obtained a lot of positive attention. And I think she's exactly right. That's definitely the case with Jordan. He manipulated Laura into staying with him and received a significant amount of attention as a grieving parent or a parent of an ill child.
Yes, he did. Jordan and Laura had separated for the last time, and Jordan was moving on with his life. He continued to work in construction and had a team of employees as a construction company owner. By May 2018, Jordan had found a new girlfriend, Evie Adams.
Evie was born in an abusive family and placed in foster care at 3 years old with her brother. Evie had wandered the streets and had no food in her first 3 years of life. The children were fostered by Bernard and Yvonne Adams when Evie was 6 and her brother was 3 years old. In 2008, when Evie was 12, the Adams became her legal guardians. When she was 16, Evie changed her last name to match her adoptive parents. She was described as bubbly, happy, and an off-pitch singer. It's clear that Evie's friends and family loved her very much.
When she was 17 years old, Evie met Nathan and they had a daughter when Evie was 20. Nathan and Evie split and Evie kept custody of their daughter. In 2018, Evie was working at a Blackburn pub. 21-year-old Evie met 26-year-old Jordan and was immediately drawn in. Jordan looked like a hero in the beginning, taking Evie out on dates and buying her gifts. He drove a red Jeep, had a good paying construction job, and threw money around.
Before long, Jordan was controlling and separating Evie from her friends and family. Evie's friends saw bruises on her, including black eyes that she told them that she had fallen down the stairs or walked into a pole. It was stories that her family did not believe. Evie's friends also saw Jordan screaming and yelling at her. Bernard became concerned about Jordan, so he asked around town, and what he heard did not impress him. Jordan had gotten into bar fights and was being investigated for the murder of his 2 children.
Jordan was arrested for the murders of Ruby and Logan in April 2018. Evie was advised of the charges against Jordan, and the police even recommended that she take out a non-molestation or restraining order against Jordan to protect herself and her daughter. Evie refused to believe that Jordan was guilty and declined taking law enforcement advice.
The terrifying thing is we will never know if Evie's daughter was also attacked. The baby would have been under 2 years old at this time.
Well, my thoughts go to he wasn't worried that Evie was going to leave him for this reason, because it sounds like she's strapped in at this point and like, no, I'm not believing that he did this. I'm with him 100%. And, Jordan, being the manipulator that he was with Laura, having to kill his own children to keep her to stay, it just doesn't seem like he has to do that with Evie. But you never know because he's messed up in the head.
No, that's true, because if Evie's baby had started having medical issues, she might have gone back to Nathan. It's kind of the opposite there of what Jordan would have wanted.
Jordan did not admit to anything, and at the time, law enforcement didn't have enough evidence to hold Jordan, so he was released.
Evie was considered a witness, and Jordan was placed on strict bail conditions that he must not associate with Evie. A non-molestation or restraining order was also made after Evie advised law enforcement of the domestic abuse and an incident where Jordan threatened to burn down the house of Nathan with their daughter inside.
Nathan's the baby daddy, right?
Right, that's Evie's daughter's dad.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I got that right.
And so Jordan apparently gets so mad that he threatens to burn down Nathan's house with the baby inside. Police were obviously worried about her daughter's safety, and Evie would lose custody of her daughter. Evie's daughter was removed from her care and placed in the custody of grandparents as police attempted to keep this child away from Jordan as well. The domestic abuse led Evie and Jordan to having an on-again, off-again relationship, with Evie living in shelters to escape Jordan. The police, social workers, and support services all recommended that Evie stay away from Jordan.
The police offered Evie a safe place to stay, and she agreed. Unfortunately, it didn't last long, and when Jordan was pulled over in January 2018 at a traffic stop, Evie was with him. Jordan knew it was a violation of his bail conditions and the restraining order to be with Evie, so he told the officer that Evie was some bird I just met. He continued the lie by saying that Evie's name was Nicola and it was their first date. When it became clear that Evie was no girl Jordan just met, he tried to run away, and when that didn't work, he climbed back into his car, grabbed a knife, and threatened to kill himself. Jordan would plead guilty for violating the restraining order and carrying a knife.
Jordan was sentenced to 12 weeks in prison, but the sentence was suspended as Jordan owned a construction business and 87 employees might lose their jobs if he was in prison. Evie also took the stand to say she no longer wanted to continue with the restraining order. In May 2019, Jordan was on the run for assaulting a 19-year-old in the man's home. Jordan was described as 27 years old, 5 foot 5 inch Caucasian, and stocky build. The public was advised not to approach Jordan, but to contact the police right away. We couldn't find any additional information on Jordan serving time for this attack or his time on the run.
Jordan lost work as clients wouldn't hire a man with an investigation for murdering his children. By October 2019, Evie texted a friend saying that she was breaking up with Jordan for good and moving back in with her parents. The abuse and arguments between Jordan and Evie continued constantly, and Jordan was also accusing Evie of cheating. Even with the abuse, Evie agreed to give it another go with Jordan in early October. They had been together for 18 months, and bright and bubbly Evie was described as a shell of her prior self.
On October 11th, 2019, Jordan and Evie traveled with friends Kimberly and Jamie. That Sunday, Jordan and Evie got into a fight, and Evie broke it off. On Monday, October 14th, Evie and Jordan got back together again. Evie's phone history shows that she was continuing to look for Blackburn apartments. Maybe Jordan caught wind of this. We'll never know what caused his next tragic steps.
On October 17, 2019, Jordan joined a WhatsApp group called UK Tablets where he purchased gabapentin, zapaclone, and diazepam. Just 2 days later, Evie was complaining of stomach pain. She looked up her symptoms online and suspected it was a stomach bug. Evie FaceTimed with Kimberly's grandmother, who was a registered nurse. Evie told her that she wasn't taking any pain medication because she didn't like the way it made her feel. That night, Kimberly and Jamie saw Jordan giving Evie pain medication from a brown unlabeled glass bottle. He gave her 2 pills at a time, saying they would help Evie feel better. This was extra suspicious because the UK had long since stopped using the brown glass bottles, and the bottle didn't appear to have a pharmacy label on it.
Evie called her parents and said that she had the stomach flu. She was falling asleep while on the phone with her parents, but wouldn't let them come and get her. On October 20th, Evie told Kimberly that she was sleepy all the time and dazed. Evie then texted Jordan to say, quote, "I feel like I'm dying." Jordan was still on the UK Tablets group looking for medication. He called the Oakenhurst doctor's office to make Evie an appointment. Oakenhurst says that the appointment for Evie was made, but they didn't show up. Jordan says that he tried unsuccessfully to make Evie an appointment.
The following day, Jordan called the non-emergency number 111 to report that Evie was vomiting and dizzy for 4 days. An appointment at St. Ives doctor's office was made, but Evie didn't make it to the appointment again. 8 minutes after Evie missed St. Ives' appointment, Jordan was on the UK Tablets group saying, "You got any blues, mate? Looking for diazepam."
I thought this was particularly funny because blues in the US is Viagra.
Yeah, did not know that.
I didn't know that blues could also be diazepam.
That's weird.
Does he know what he's asking for?
Probably not. He doesn't seem that smart.
This is just base level stuff here. Like they are able to track all of his movements and connect the dots with this so easily.
Yeah. I wonder what Viagra is in the UK then. Like what they say it, how they say it.
Do they need street slang for Viagra? Like, can't you just call it what it is?
You got the V's, man.
Oh, no.
On October 22nd, 2019, Jordan himself went to a doctor appointment with a complaint of being depressed. The doctor didn't think Jordan was actually depressed, but still wrote a 7-day prescription of Zopiclone. Jordan picked up the medication at the pharmacy on the same day.
Evie had previously planned on going out with Kimberly that night, but canceled due to the illness. She texted another friend saying,
"And Jordan keeps stressing and won't let me see a doctor."
After this, it would appear that Jordan is in charge of Evie's phone. Jordan called 111 again because Evie was vomiting, dizzy, and had abdominal pain and blurred vision. Her family knew that she was really sick because on October 23rd, Evie missed a scheduled visit with her daughter, and this was very unlike her.
At 10:10 p.m., Evie's phone sent a text to Jordan.
"I took all them tablets you gave me today, as well as just took 10 Cocodamol and 8 paracetamol because I don't want to live no more, and I'll carry on taking more."
Jordan and Evie were staying with Jordan's aunt and uncle in Blackburn. Evie was in so much pain that she was unable to walk on the 24th. Jordan's phone texts Evie,
"You still want to kill yourself?"
Evie's phone responds, "Yes, am I allowed burgers?"
What the what? It's just a low-key conversation about suicide and also, can she have a cheeseburger?
He's a total dumbass. It's a clear setup convo. I don't know who he's trying to fool, really, with this. It's clearly set up.
Yep.
Later that evening, Evie texts a friend saying that she had an appointment with an after-hours doctor, but in reality, there was no appointment made. Traffic footage and mobile phone data would be used later to pin Jordan's movements as he looked to buy more drugs.
Just like with Logan, Jordan distanced himself from Evie's death. He spent October 24th away from Evie and took her phone with him. Still, Evie's phone texted Jordan.
"Jordan, I don't want to be here anymore. I've taken some drugs and I don't want help."
Jordan stayed away all day, traveling further away to buy more drugs. At 8:15 p.m., Jordan's Aunt Dawn went in to check on Evie and found her collapsed with blue lips. Dawn called 999 and was instructed to provide CPR until paramedics arrived. It was at this point that Jordan arrived, crying over Evie's death. Jordan said that he provided the paramedics with multiple packets of medication Evie had taken. The paramedics say that Jordan never handed them any packets of medication. Jordan also told the paramedics that he had seen Evie take 2 tramadol and 4 Zopiclone that morning.
Evie was declared dead at 8:50 p.m. Law enforcement contacted Bernard and Yvonne at 10 p.m., letting them know that Evie had committed suicide by overdose. Bernard told law enforcement immediately that Evie wasn't suicidal, and it didn't make sense. Within 2 days, they were back to tell Yvonne and Bernard that they didn't think it was suicide but homicide. As soon as Jordan's name was mentioned, the investigation had shifted to investigating a homicide.
An autopsy was performed, and Evie's cause of death was confirmed to be from an overdose of tramadol and diazepam. She had taken a combination of drugs over days. The level of tramadol in her system showed an approximate dose of 20 50-milligram tramadol, not the 2 that Jordan told paramedics. On November 6, Kimberly went to help with funeral arrangements and check on Jordan. Jordan told Kimberly that he was working, but anytime she went near his laptop, he closed the lid. Then Jordan disappeared while he printed some documents. He came back saying he wanted Evie to be buried with a picture of them and started searching through Evie's belongings for that specific picture.
When Jordan opened the picture frame to get the picture out for Kimberly, 2 letters just happened to fall out of the back. One was a suicide note and the other a letter to her daughter. Both letters were typed up with Evie's handwritten signature at the bottom. The suicide note was almost a full page in length. Operation Maynard evolved to include Evie's death in their investigation. Jordan was brought into the police station to discuss Evie's death. Jordan was cool, calm, and collected while he stated having no involvement in the murders of Ruby, Logan, and Evie. Lacking evidence, Jordan would be allowed to leave.
Jordan arrived at Evie's funeral and wanted to be in charge. Bernard had to tell Jordan to leave and that he wasn't welcome at the funeral. Always looking for attention, Jordan was on social media posting photos of Evie and how she would be missed. The police called in specialist Dr. Picornell in March 2020 to look over the suicide letter and confirm if Evie was the author. The first thing that she noticed was that Evie's signature on the letter was a photocopy of her handwritten signature. The suicide letter was also compared to other letters Evie had written and her diary. Dr. Picornell found that the suicide letter was not written in Evie's pattern. She then reviewed the letter and Jordan's Facebook postings. From there, she found the pattern was closer to Jordan than Evie's style. Jordan's fingerprints were also all over the letter, but Evie's were not.
The police were starting to narrow in on Jordan. They searched Jordan's phone, and it didn't take long before they found the WhatsApp UK tablets group. This was the nail in the coffin for Jordan. Now they had a death that they could prove he had orchestrated. Law enforcement was also able to confirm Jordan's phone and Evie's phone were together at the time of her suicide text. Jordan sent a text and it was received almost instantly because just like Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, Jordan was in the same room with both phones.
The investigation continued on for Logan and Ruby's death. A blood sample had been obtained from Logan at birth, and law enforcement was able to confirm that Logan did not have any genetic disorders that would have led to his death. This solidified for law enforcement that both Ruby and Logan had been healthy prior to their sudden deaths. The cause of death for Logan and Ruby was changed from unascertained to smothered by their father. On Sunday, January 19th, 2020, 2 men kicked down the front door of Jordan's parents' house where Jordan had been staying.
Ding dong.
In a scary way. At 11 p.m., the Monaghan family was awoken to 2 men with their hoods up shouting for Jordan. Jordan ran upstairs to call for help and warned his parents to stay upstairs as well. But John, Jordan's stepdad, headed downstairs to confront the intruders. The attackers kicked John and used an undisclosed weapon on him, which is assumed to be a taser based on the blue and white flashing lights. After the assault, the 2 men jumped in their BMW and sped off. A witness recorded a video of the 2 men, which police used to catch Murabur Roman and Mohammed Mia later that evening. They were arrested after John's DNA was found under their fingernails. We don't know if Jordan's other criminal shenanigans brought on this attack, or if these 2 men were taking a vigilante justice perspective for Ruby, Logan, and Evie.
That's what I'm talking about. Vigilante justice. Let's go.
I really feel like that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want it to be obviously John. I wanted it to be Jordan, but
I feel really bad for John because he was just wrong place, just trying to defend his home. You know, like 2 young guys bust into your house. He was just trying to defend his home, probably trying to tell him to leave. And they might not have known that it was John instead of Jordan. It is in the dark. They have their hoods up.
Yeah.
So they might not have realized that they attacked the wrong guy.
The 2 attackers wouldn't see a court date until 2024. By that time, they had changed their ways. One was attending school for biomedical science, and the other was married with a child. Still, they both pled guilty, and the judge sentenced them both to 21 months in prison with 12 months suspended. He gave them a stern warning that with any additional criminal activity, they would be going straight to prison. The event seems to have scared them straight, though. Almost exactly a year later, on January 18th, 2021, Jordan would be charged with the murders of Ruby, Logan, and Evie. He was also charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of cruelty to a child, all between January 1st, 2013 and October 24th, 2019.
The trial began in October 2021 and was expected to last 10 days. The court decided to try Jordan for Ruby, Logan, and Evie's murders together in one trial. Seems like a short expectation for a triple murder trial. Just 10 days?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
The prosecution's case for Ruby and Logan's death relied on the fact that Jordan was the only one around at the time of the children's medical emergencies and death. The prosecution advised the jury that Jordan had smothered his children to death. The defense attempted to prove that Jordan was not involved in Ruby and Logan's death. There was no physical evidence in the deaths of Ruby and Logan, but for Evie's murder, the electronic evidence alone stacked up against Jordan.
In their final statements, the prosecution requested that the jury review the seriousness of the crimes, including the combination of the offenses and murders of Logan and Evie had each involved a substantial degree of premeditation. The trial would last 10 weeks with 6 days for jury deliberation. On December 17, 2021, Jordan was found guilty of all 7 counts: the murder of 24-day-old Ruby in January 2013, the murder of 20-month-old Logan in August 2013, the attempted murder of his 4-month-old daughter in late September 2016, a second attempted murder of his 3rd child a few days later in early October 2016, and the murder in October 2019 of Evie Adams. The court had determined that Jordan had smothered Logan and Ruby to death. He had also attempted to smother the 3rd child before poisoning Evie. The judge said,
"I am sure that you are an exceptionally controlling, selfish, and cruel man. A striking feature of these offenses is that you carried them out calmly and secretively in your home where you lived with the mother of these children and later where you lived with Evie Adams. The trigger for these offenses was usually because of your volatile relationships with Laura Gray, the mother of Ruby, Logan, and the 3rd child, and later with Evie Adams."
Jordan was sentenced to 3 life sentences with minimum sentence of 40 years.
However, the court felt that Jordan's crimes were more severe than the ruling allowed and did not fit the true extent of his crimes, so they petitioned for his minimum 40-year sentence to be reviewed. In May 2022, Jordan's sentence would be extended from life imprisonment with a minimum of 40 years to life imprisonment with a minimum of 48 years. The 8-year extended sentence means that Jordan would be a minimum of 78 years old before he could seek parole.
Laura's story isn't over, and she experienced 2 more tragedies. In December 2023, Laura and her new husband, Andrew, welcomed a daughter, Haley. Sadly, Haley had a rare kidney disease, and she died at just 5 weeks old. Then in January 2025, Laura and Andrew had a son named Thomas. Thomas was born with a severe muscular disorder, which led to his death at just 3 days old. The family has a GoFundMe set up to pay for headstones for Haley and Thomas. We'll list the link in our episode notes and socials.
Logan and Ruby have matching grave sites and headstones. Logan's reads, "Sleep tight, little prince," and Ruby's, "Sleep tight, little princess." Laura is also working to remove the word daddy from the statement, "All our love, mommy and daddy," on their headstones. In reference to Jordan, Laura said,
"No punishment would ever be enough. What he did is beyond human understanding. I will always carry the memory of my precious children, and I want to make them proud."
We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye!
Bye!